Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I am Emmanuel, I am an Airbus A330 pilot and welcome to another A330 service. Today we're in Nairobi in the Lufthansa A330-300 equipped with Rolls-Royce engines, and we're going to fly the Lufthansa flight 591 over to Frankfurt, which is going to take us about 8 hours and 50 minutes, initially across Africa, Saudi Arabia, then Egypt, and then via Greece, the typical routing up to Frankfurt. Before we start though, let's go ahead and have a look into our flight plan to make an informed decision on the amount of fuel and to discuss one of the specialties of operating in Africa. So this is the flight plan for today's flight, Lufthansa 591 on the 1st of January from Nairobi to Frankfurt on the Delta Alpha India Kilo India. Now, let's first of all have a look at the general route. We can see that we are going northbound via Ethiopia, Eritrea, and then Saudi Arabia, Egypt, over to Greece, and then along the European continent to Frankfurt. Now, looking into the significant weather charts, we don't have anything significant reported over here. We can nicely see the position of the intertropical convergence zone just to the south of our actual position, and as we are heading northbound, we are crossing a couple jet streams. Rather strong ones here at 125 knots, core and flight level 410, so there is a certain chance for turbulence there. And later on, getting into Europe, we once again have good weather conditions with a low tropopause over here, leading to hopefully a smooth flight once we have finished the crossing of the jet streams. So looking at these significant weather charts here, we are looking at turbulence maybe from about 2.5 hours to about, say, 4.5 hours into the flight, due to the crossing of the jet streams. Now let's go ahead and have a look at one of the Africa specialties, and this one we can see right up here on the airport weathers. You can see the weather from Nairobi is really out of date by more than a day. Now this is typical African. They just didn't update the weather by the looks of it. You can see that the forecast is even older. Now luckily we're an outbound flight, not an inbound, so we can just look outside the window and ask ATC for the latest winds, and that's all the data we need. But this is typical African, and had we flown the opposite direction, Frankfurt to Nairobi, then we would have needed two alternates to cover for the situation that no weather is known at our destination airport. Luckily today, not that much of a problem, but typical African conditions. So looking into our destination Frankfurt, we are landing at around 0600 UTC. So we are looking at that tempo weather over here. So we're expecting 4,000 meters visibility in rain, broken clouds and 500 feet. And general weather conditions with a wind of 210 at 13 knots. Our primary alternate is Stuttgart, and again at the expected arrival time we're expecting the wind of 210 at 9 and cavalcade conditions. And knowing all of those, we can scroll up a little bit in our flight plan and have a look at the fuel section and the operational impacts. Now, the operational impact is an important one today because we are probably going to arrive late due to all those jet streams. You can see that even if we depart on time at 2045, we are going to be 5 minutes late on touchdown, and then we still have to taxi in, so chances are we are definitely going to fly faster today, so we are going to take a little bit of fuel for that. Now down here we can see cost NX 0 would save us a bit of fuel, of course, since we're planned at cost NX 30, and cost NX 300 would result in an additional fuel usage of 3.5 tons, saving us 19 minutes. Now we really don't want to go to cost NX 300, we don't want to fly that fast, as it just wouldn't be economical anymore, but we can certainly make some 10 minutes or so up by taking around 1,000 kilos extra, flying something around cost NX 80, cost NX 100-ish. Those are normally good numbers for making up delay on the A330. So 56 tons is our planned standard takeoff weight. We can take a little bit more there. So take 1,000 kilos extra for our delay, and well, maybe another 2,000 or so in case we have to fly a missed approach in Frankfurt. So in general, I tend to say if we take around 3,000 more, then that would be quite a lot already, if I'm honest. So let's just make it 2,000 more. Then we are covered either for the missed approach or for the faster flying. And we still have the contingency fuel that makes up for any rest of it in case both happens. Alright, so 2,000 kilos extra, so 56 is the minimum fuel. That's planned takeoff up here, plus the 408 kilos taxi fuel. So we are going to use 58 tons of fuel for our flight today. Okay, so 58 tons is decided. Then let's head over into the cockpit and take a seat when we can start to prepare for our flight today. So the general stuff first, engine masters off, start switch norm, the weather radar is already set and the landing gear lever is down, the wiper selectors are off and batteries are on. We are on the external power already. Nonetheless, I want to get the APU running quickly so that we can provide a little bit of air conditioning to our guests here. So 1.2.8 and 1.1.5 is going into the radios. We do want to get the radios set up before we start the APU, just in case anything happens, like a fire or something. Then ATC, if they see it, can advise us to it. For this reason, we want to turn up the radios now already, and also bring the speaker up. Alright, then let's do the APU fire test. That's looking good, and then we can start the APU itself. A small comment, by the way, the general flight deck on the overhead is a little bit too dark. I mean, you got the lights right next to it. There should be light reflecting back onto the overhead, and you should have everything a bit brighter and not just pitch black. That's just a general comment over here. So while the APU is starting, let's go ahead and check our lights. So the intake lights are on. I'm also going to turn on the main panel floodlights here and the pedestal floodlight, so that we have some good lighting conditions inside our aircraft. Now let's continue with our setup then and head over into the electronic flight bag. So let's download our flight plan from SimBrief over here. So Lufthansa 591, Nairobi to Frankfurt. No weather available over here as expected. Now onto the payload, SimBrief flight plan download, and then we want to take 58 tons of fuel, and you can apply that with an instant loading, please. And that's it. Wonderful. 255 passengers today, and we are carrying 8 tons of additional cargo. Most likely some local stuff, maybe. Okay, so that much for our general setup. Then let's go ahead and do our takeoff calculation. Now, at this point in the real world, I would call air traffic control and ask them for the current weather conditions. You can see it can't really download anything over here. So what we're gonna do is we'll just go in here and we'll just take the weather that we have available in here. Oh, nothing. Okay, wonderful. Well, in that case, what are we gonna do? The latest we had reported was 21 degrees. So that's the weather from SimBrief now. I have no idea if that is what the simulator actually applies to us, but I'm kind of thinking, well, if that's the latest weather that was available, maybe that is what the simulator gives us over here as well. So temperature 21, QNH 1020. So we'll take 21, QNH 1020, and we'll take a tailwind of 5 knots over here. So 240/5. Just to be on the safe side. We are probably going to be perfectly safe with a headwind that's reported in SimBrief, but I don't want to take any risks here. Alright, so takeoff weight is going to be, what do we have here? 214 tons. So 214. Conf 2, air conditioning off, and calculate. So limitations, runway length, brake energy. Okay, so it's telling me that we can't depart. Well, let's calculate a little bit lower. So is it bugged in general now, or is it just that it's... No, okay, here we go. Max takeoff weight 215.9. So 215.9, and we are at 214. So where's the problem calculating that? So 214.0. Calculate, please. Well, that is strange. It tells me the max takeoff weight is 215.9. Maybe if we try conf 1 plus F. Even though that should have been with the corresponding flap setting already. That is really strange. Okay, let's see if it can calculate 210. Yeah, 210 is... It can do 211. Also 212. Alright, and that's where it says no. The interesting thing is, it tells me that we can go at this weight, but, well, we'll keep it at that, just for the sake of it. What happens if I enter 0 wind? And then 214. Okay. Well, we'll have to live with these pieces of data then. So conf 2, air conditioning off, force toga on anyway. Okay, that's a little bit of a bug here. It should be able to calculate for anything until 215.9. Now if you're wondering why we have such limited maximum takeoff weight anyway here, that's because of the local conditions. If we take a look into the airport chart, we can see something here in Nairobi that we have in a lot of African airports. So you can see the elevation is almost 5,500 feet, and a temperature of 21 degrees up here makes it really, really hot and high. And this completely limits the A330. The A330 is not an airplane that likes this. You have the same problems in airports like Johannesburg, Windhoek, well, Las Vegas even at only 2,000 feet elevation. So the A330 is really not an airplane that likes these kind of conditions. But in any case, we do know that we can go over here. And I think what I'm gonna do is I will just use my real-life EFB later on to calculate the takeoff over here. And, well, then we have the best possible data. Alright, APU is running. We have sufficient oxygen. We do have the hydraulics. Let's check the engine oil. If we can see anything, that is. In the real world, that is easier to see. Much easier. Nope. Not visible. Okay, well, in that case, we'll assume that the oil is checked. That's a simulator limitation right now. So, flaps up, speed brakes up, and let's check our alternate brakes. Looking good, and set again. Alright. So, that much for the basic setup. Then, let's turn on the lights. And the signs. Then the colleague can already head out for the walk around, and in the meantime we are going to start with our flight deck preparation. So we do have the recorder on, crew supplies on already. I did load the turnaround state, which put the aircraft in a little bit of a state that, well, I'm not 100% used to in the sim. In the real world, things would have been a bit different in the turnaround state. But anyway, we'll get there eventually. Okay, so that's everything set. Then we did use a QNH of 1020. Let's see what kind of elevation we get with that. So 1020 gives me 5,210. And it would be great if we had elevation information of our parking stands, but unfortunately we don't. Well, in any case, we'll get there. I think the QNH is just about fine. Okay, so all that good stuff is set. Then we do have our weather radar onto weather and turbulence. Transponder is set, and then we can go right into the setup. So let's go into the SimBrief dispatch, please, and view our flight plan. Here we go, and then let's start our FMS setup. So A330-300, Trent 700 engines, we have a current enough database, and we can delete any of those previously stored waypoints. Flight plan request. And here we are. Nairobi to Frankfurt, alternate Stuttgart, Lufthansa 591, cost index. Well, we can change that one straight away. 80, and we'll initially go to flight level 370 instead of 340. We can see that down here in the routing as well. I don't really know why it gives us 340 initially. Maybe an airway restriction until route all. I don't know. It's just a single waypoint anyway. Okay, so runway 06, and we have the Navet 2 Delta departure. Here we go with the transition towards Lotus. And here we go. Insert that, and the arrival in Frankfurt is going to be an ILS approach 25 left, or maybe 25 right, we'll see about that, with the Debbie 1 Bravo arrival and the Delta Fox 626 transition. Insert. Now let's go ahead and have a look at our charts so that we can determine our engine out sit. And that is going to be on offset 06 to the north, I guess. Let's find that one. Oh yeah, that kind of looks like it. So, to Lotus. Well, over here we have Navex 2 Delta. Well, that is looking strange. So, Navex 2 Delta apparently is straight ahead to the VOR, then make an orbit back to the VOR, and then continue along the route. I don't see us doing that, if I'm honest. Let's take the Itoru 1 Alpha then, towards Lotus. That one probably looks a little bit better. So, departure 06 and Itoru 1 Alpha, Lotus. Insert. I think that's a little bit more sensible, isn't it? Let's have a look at the plan. So, we proceed on the runway track to 10,000 feet of flight level 100, and then a left-hand turn, direct Itoru above flight level 190, and then to Lotus, and that looks a lot more like what I would expect at this point. Okay, the terrain in the extended centerline is flat, with a little mountain there, but the extended centerline itself should not lead us into that, so let's go ahead and create the emergency waypoint. And that's going to be NBOX1, and that's HKJK06 / what's the runway track? Don't have that on this chart, probably have to look at the ground chart then. (053) and straight ahead for 25 miles. PBD point, stop. Okay, secondary copy active, NBOX1, enter that over here, and new destination, HKJK. Okay, and if we gotta come back, we are going to do that with the ILS approach onto runway 06, and insert thank you. So, extended centerline, and emergency waypoint. Perfect, we don't need any nav aids over here. We can take our departure and return runway in here, and then let's go on to the init page and back to our flight plan. So, estimated zero fuel weight, 155.6, fuel 58, and then we need a couple of fuel figures down here. So, contingency 1.5, entry out of range. I don't quite see that. That's better. Right, alternate 2.8 and the final reserve 2.2 is correct in there. 0.5 taxi, and the average wind component is a headwind of 34 knots. Okay, so that's in there. Then let's go back to the flight plan page, past the top of climb, and in here we have the step outs. And all that I'm gonna enter here is flight level 380 at Juliet Delta Whiskey. Like that, and I think that's the only step climb we are realistically going to do over there today. Okay, so now comes the performance, and that's gonna be the hard question. So, what I'm gonna do here is I will simply take my real life EFB and run the calculation on there. So runway 06 at the full length, we are going to take a tailwind of 5 knots to be on the safe side here, 21 degrees, QNH 1020. The runway is obviously dry and anti-ice will be off. Takeoff weight 214 tons and derated climb 1, conf 2 takeoff, air conditioning off. Calculate. And what a surprise! So let me tell you what the real world data would have looked like. The real world maximum takeoff weight would have been 228.1. So a couple tons more than what we have in here. And we can even do a flex takeoff. So the real world data is as follows. Flaps 2, 34 degrees flex. And then we have takeoff speeds of 147, 156, and 159. Like that. Okay, then engine out, acceleration altitude will be in 6,800 feet over here. We are gonna use a derated climb 1, and that's it for now. Alright, and that is the real world performance. I'm really excited to see how the aircraft is going to perform compared to that. Okay, and if I had started the IRS alignment, that would really have helped. I was wondering already why it's taking so long, but one of the good things is we are very close to the equator, so it's only going to take us 5 minutes down here. And we can certainly make good use of those 5 minutes, so let's just put up, I don't know, initial climb, probably level 150, something the likes, something high for sure. And QNH 1020 is good, the rest is in here. Well, then we are just going to wait a couple minutes until we are done with our IRS alignment. But in the meantime, we can already say hello to our passengers. Liebe Gäste, einen wunderschönen guten Abend aus dem Cockpit. Mein Name ist Emanuel, ich bin Ihr Kapitän auf unserem Lufthansa-Flug 591 nach Frankfurt. Die Flugzeit heute etwa 8 Stunden und 40 Minuten. Wir werden pünktlich in Frankfurt ankommen, erwarten weitestgehend gutes Wetter auf unserer Route. Allerdings durchfliegen wir einige Starkwindfenster, welche zu einer leichten Turbulenz während des Fluges führen können. Wir möchten uns an dieser Stelle herzlich bedanken, dass Sie heute unsere Gäste sind. Lehnen Sie sich zurück, genießen Sie den Flug mit uns und wenn es etwas gibt, womit wir Ihnen den schöner gestalten können, zögern Sie bitte nicht, sich an unsere Flugbegleiter zu wenden. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit und noch einmal willkommen an Bord. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emanuel and in the name of Lufthansa, welcome aboard flight 591 to Frankfurt. Flight time today is going to be 8 hours and 40 minutes. We expect mostly good weather en route. However, we are going to cross some jet streams along the way, which are some very strong winds, which might cause a little bit of turbulence roundabout at the middle of the flight. We would like to thank you very much for being our guests today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the trip with us. If there is anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please do not hesitate to ask any of our charming cabin crew. Once again, thank you very much for your attention and welcome aboard. Okay, so that is our cabin dealt with. Then let's go ahead and get our clearance. And that's going to be on... Oh, come on. Move that chart around, please. Where are the frequencies? Here they are. So, probably 18.7. And the ATIS would have been 126.2. Yeah, well, we don't really need that today, do we? 126.2. Yeah, no ATIS working. That's fine for me. Nairobi Tower, good evening. Lufthansa 591 Heavy, no ATIS available. Request the latest weather and clearance to Frankfurt. Lufthansa 591, the wind is calm, temperature to 1 QNH 1020. You're clear to Frankfurt via the Etoru 1 Alpha departure, direct Lotus, climb flight level 150, squawk 0534. Right, Lufthansa 591, QNH 1020, the rest is copied. Clear to Frankfurt, Etoru 1 Alpha departure, Lotus transition, climb flight level 150, squawk 0534. 591, read back correct, report ready. Will go. So, Etoru 1 Alpha is confirmed, squawk 0534. Okay, so all that is in here now. Let's go ahead and close up. So, cargo doors closing, main door closing, and APU is online. Ground from flight deck, go ahead. So you can disconnect external power and we'll be ready for push in 2 minutes. Thanks, power is disconnected, we'll prepare the aircraft. Alright, are you ready for the departure briefing? Yep. That's wonderful. So, departing Nairobi, runway 06, Etoru 1 Alpha departure, climbing flight level 150. The MSA in the departure sector is something. 8,100 feet, and we do have 2,000 kilos extra fuel, giving us about 20 minutes. Perfect. So, I don't have any hotspots. Stock margin for rejected takeoff is 0, since we are brake energy limited here, according to our electronic flight bag. In the real world, it would have been around 300 meters. Engine outset, straight at 25 miles, pick up the hold, and if we need to make an immediate return, we are above the maximum landing weight. We can come back over here if needed, however, we will need the full runway, and time permitting, we will absolutely do the overweight landing checklist. Only if we really have some fire or anything that forces an immediate return, I would fly a southern traffic pattern as the terrain is a little bit lower over there, and then come back for the landing. In terms of special operations or non-standard operations, I do not have anything there. Do you see any threats for the departure? No? Perfect. That's our departure briefing completed then. So, cockpit preparation checklist, please. And while we're on it, here we go. So, gear pins and covers removed. Fuel quantity. We have 57,940 kilos balanced. Seatbelts on, ADRs. Nav and barrel ref, QNH 1020. Cockpit preparation checklist complete. So by now the load sheet should have arrived, so let's go ahead and do the final performance here. Zero fuel weight, 155.6, CG 26.5. So 155.6 is the same, and 26.5, giving us a takeoff weight of 213.1. And that's what we more or less have, and that's also what we've calculated with. Perfect. Alright then. Lufthansa 591, request pushback and startup. Lufthansa 591, push and start approved, runway 06. Thanks, push and start approved, 06, Lufthansa 591 heavy. Before start checklist, park and brake. Set, takeoff speeds and thrust. V1 147, VR 156, V2 159, flex 34. Windows closed, beacon on, before start checklist complete. Ground from flight deck, go ahead. Pushback approved, runway 06, parking brake set. Okay, facing northwest on taxi lane. Thanks, release brakes please. Brakes released, and we are waiting for your signal to start the pushback. Sorry, to start the engines. Stand by. Okay, off block at 20:58, that is 13 minutes late. That's quite okay, seeing that we have a full aircraft. So, once we are past the line down here, we are going to commence our engine start. Okay, clear to start engines in sequence. Thanks, starting 1 then 2. Okay, engine 1 start. And don't ask me why it's not loading the textures just now. Here we go, that's better. Why is the weather radar on? Huh, that was interesting. Could have sworn that one was in the off position. I may have hit it accidentally. Shit happens. Okay, that looks like we have a good start on engine number 1, and we are starting engine number 2. Clear 2. Okay, on the taxi lane, nothing going on out here. It's quiet, that's how I like it. Alright, engine 2 start. And the pushback is complete, set your brakes please. Brake set. Roger, stand by. So, the door is closed. Yeah. And they have already dimmed the cabin lights very well. Okay, number 2 is running up. We do have ignition. And we have liftoff. Wait a moment. Later, hopefully. Okay, so we have 2 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect. Show me the pin on the left, please, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. So, just about releasing the tuck. That's fine. Okay. So, 28.5. Yep, that's roughly what it's trimmed. Very good. Okay, and there's the lady, and she's holding a pin in the hands. Wonderful. Alright. Cleared signal received. Thumbs up after start checklist. Anti-ice. Off. Ecam status. Checked. Pitch trim. 28.5%. Rudder trim. Neutral. After start checklist complete. Flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Right. Oop, a little bit of lag here. Clear on the left side and clear on the right side. So, dome light off. Parking brake release. Let's dim the pedestal a bit as well. In the real world, it would roll on idle. It absolutely would. Even at this elevation. But looks like we gotta help it a bit here. So, Lufthansa 591, taxi and holding point runway 06 via whatever taxiways those are. What's that? Via Juliet Golf Kilo. Interesting how the wiper is so bright up there. There's literally no light shining onto it. In the real world it wouldn't be. I have a feeling they just, I don't know, made it part of the external model and that kinda illuminates because we do have some light scattering around the airport. That's kinda my best explanation for it. Alright, so everything is clear on the right side. We're down at 10 knots, perfect. Okay, clear right side and clear left side. Now the taxi lights could be a little bit stronger here. I feel that they are pretty weak. Sometimes we just turn the nose light into takeoff though. Yeah, that's the effect that I would have expected. Obviously you don't want to do that when there is any staff in front of you or any other aircraft, but if you want to see something, putting the nose light into the takeoff position sometimes really helps. Alright, no changes to the takeoff briefing. Do you have any? No? Wonderful. Okay, Kilo is going to be the next to the right. And that's the full runway length there. Taxi checklist. Flight controls, checked. Flap setting. Conv 2. Radar and predictive wind shear, on and auto. Engine start selector, non. Econ memo, takeoff no blue. Taxi checklist complete. So we're clear on the left and clear on the right. Typical Africa, no centerline lights, and we can be rather happy that they even have edge lights over here. Come on aircraft, get around that turn. Okay, so something we forgot earlier on, because we used the real world EFB as the trim, and they want 3.2 up. Here we go. Alright then, runway 06 cleared for takeoff, Lufthansa 591. Cabin crew prepare for departure.
Approaching 06.
Checked. Lineup checklist. Takeoff runway 06 full length. TCAS, TARA, PAX 1 and 2 off. Lineup checklist complete. So the elevation is roughly correct. In other words, our QNH isn't grossly incorrect. And let's just stop on the runway here for a second.
On runway 06.
Checked. Alright, we still have that predictive wind shear off message. I really don't know why that was in the auto mode already. Oh well. Doesn't matter. Now everything is correct. Are you ready for departure? Yes. Perfect. Take off. Manflex 34 SS runway auto thrust blue. Thrust set. Now I'm excited to see how much runway we'll actually need. $100 knots. Checked. Rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. Gear up. Nav. Checked. So, real world...
Altimeter setting.
Yeah, disregard that. In the real world, we'd need a pitch of 15 degrees. The 12 we have right now would be with an engine failure.
Altimeter setting.
Yeah, it's okay, just... Thanks, RAS is off. Alright. Thrust decline 1, climb auto thrust. Flaps 1, speed check. Flaps 1. Beautiful look at the city. I just really love FS24 at night. So, is the terrain display implemented again? No, not yet. Okay. Flaps 0. Speed checked. Flaps 0. It's interesting how the 10,000 feet waypoint gets further and further, but I can tell you already that it'll be much closer than where it is right now. They probably calculate that live with an algorithm that may be a little bit too sensitive while the aircraft is accelerating. That's my personal guess over here. Alright, reaching 250 knots. Now look at that. They calculated live with the rate of climb, not with the expected performance profile. So, that looks much better. So, enjoy the last couple of lights for the next longer time. Once we are clear of the Nairobi area, it'll stay pitch black until we're in Jeddah. Set standard. Standard cross check passing flight level 93. Now, checked. Okay, full speed. Speed 250. The reason I'm doing this is because our departure field elevation was over 5,000 feet, so I'm gonna maintain the 250 knots until 15,000 above sea level, so that we basically fly 250 until 10,000 above the ground. The same for the lights and everything. I'll just delay everything a little bit until 15,000. I gotta say, I somewhat disagree with that amber Etoru flight level 170 indication over there. We will easily make 190 over there. Easily. Okay. Autopilot 1. From now on it's just flying straight for a long time, so I'm not too concerned about doing that myself. The autopilot will do that just as fine. Alright, set managed speed? No, not yet. So, 250/150. Okay. Managed speed. Now the plane does it automatically. We could have done that on the ground. That would have made it a little bit easier, but doesn't matter too much. Okay then, Lufthansa 591, continue climb, flight level 360. Or 370 actually. All cruise, 370 blue. That's something I like about Africa. They usually have so little traffic that they just clear you, you know, about as direct as it gets. And we can probably do the same with our routing over here and just go direct to LOTAS. So LOTAS, normally I'd go with the beam points, but they don't have that for the time being, so we'll do without the beam points then. Alright, so do we have some en route charts anywhere? Don't really think we do, but it was worth a try. Well, in any case, we're about to reach 10,000 above the ground, so let's do some switching. Lights off, signs off, airports, and clear and copy, please. Alright, cruising 370, optimum 362, maximum 380. Yep, so 370 is a good level for the cruise, and by the time we reach Jeddah, we should be fine to go to level 380, which we're going to maintain until the end of the flight then. Wonderful! So with that, we are up and in the air, and then I tend to say that from now on things are going to get a little bit easier. So let's take another shortcut here, direct to Rudol, which is the FIR boundary. And insert. Alright. Well then, I'm looking forward to see you all as we're getting a little bit closer to Frankfurt. Enjoy the hopefully great views of, well, probably not so much Africa, but later on, Saudi Arabia. Jeddah surely looks awesome when you fly past it by night, which I'm really hoping for today. And with all of that out of the way, see you all a little bit later during the approach to Frankfurt. So, the end of a long night flight is slowly approaching. The top of descent is coming into view. And at this position we normally already get a direct to Spesa. So, normally they are really good with those directs here in Frankfurt. So we are going to do the same thing and proceed direct to Spesa. Now, top of descent in 50 nautical miles. Let's go ahead and start to request the latest weather to see what we're up to. So, Frankfurt, weather at 0520, automatic, 230 at 10 kilometers, light rain, broken clouds, 2300, 6 degrees, QNH 1011. Now that is quite a bit better than what we had originally anticipated, but I gotta say I'm rather happy that we, for once, do not have to do winter operations here, after doing winter ops for quite a couple of days now. So now comes the big question. Are the charts still working, or do we need to use the Navigraph charts, which are certainly the more reliable alternative here? And it looks like it's not loading anything. Nope. Okay. Well, then we go over into the Navigraph charts, which are the more reliable alternative. Well, we definitely want to import the latest though. And here we go. Okay, for the arrival in Frankfurt, we can immediately go over to the ILS approach for runway 25 left, like this, and then 25 right with the Yankee approach over here. Taxi chart, we don't really need too much there. Let's take the overview and the parking stands east as well. So we're directing to Spesa already, and thereafter we do have a couple of waypoints leading us down into the downwind. Let's check those, and let's just switch over to night charts here as well, which is a little bit better for the eye. Okay, so Spesa and flight level 110, and then we proceed via Charlie Delta Fox 606 into the downwind, like that. Eventually we end up on the ILS chart for runway 25 left, which we have over here. We have the transition via Delta Fox 626 in here. I do expect a direct somewhere over here once we are getting close to Spesa and get handed over to approach control. In any case, the waypoints over here are all checked and confirmed. We start the ILS at Delta Fox 620 as our final approach point, 3-degree glide slope, and at 4.1 mile we cross-check 1660, all of which we have in here. And for the missed approach, straight at Delta Fox 290, which is an overfly waypoint, then Delta Fox 685 or 2000, whichever is later, left turn direct to Charlie VOR, climbing of 5000, all of which we have down here in the FMS. We don't need any nav aids, it's gonna auto-tune anything we need. Frankfurt 25 left is our runway. So, 0.81, 306 knots is much too slow for the cost index we have entered. The real one would give you 0.82 and probably something around 315 or so. So that suggests that the cost index in here is not all that accurate, but we'll just leave it at that for the time being. Okay, 230 at 10, 6 degrees, 1011. Minimum 570 on the left runway, and flaps config 3 would normally be used, but for some reason again it's not adjusting the VLS when I change my flap config, and well, that is a no-go item for me. For that reason we are gonna stay on config full. I'm not sure why it's doing this, probably a bug. Engine out acceleration is 4300. We have an hour of extra fuel, very good, and then for the flap plan, let's enter the ILS Yankee approach on runway 25 right. Navy 1 Bravo, Delta Fox 426 transition. And should we have to fly that Yankee approach, let's cross-check it real quick. So the downwind is exactly the same. What matters is the final approach, and this time we've got the Delta Foxtrot 4XX waypoints until we eventually start the descent in 5,000 feet at Delta Foxtrot 430, and this is a 3.2 degree glide slope, all of which we have in here. And in case of the missed approach, Delta Fox 485, 1870, Delta Fox 486, max 220, 2,950, Delta Fox 487, and then MIFTO climbing 5,000 feet, all of which we have in here. So secondary performance, the minimum is 10 feet lower on runway 25 right, so 560. Alright. So that's our FMS preparation completed. Then landing on 25 left, we really don't have any problems with the brake temperatures today, so I will use auto brake low. And then I tend to say, are you ready for the approach briefing? Okay, debut 1 Bravo arrival, ILS approach runway 25 left, MSA 4300, minimum 570, go around straight at half left, then full left, climbing 5,000 if we land on 25 left. If we land on 25 right, the minimums will be 560, and the go-around goes out to the right, ending at MIF2, climbing 5,000 as well. And we do have an hour of extra fuel on board. Lovely, so we are going to fly the approach guided by the flight director and manual flight. We are going to use config full for the landing, auto brakes low and idle reverse. If we land on 25 left, we vacate the runway to the right. If we land on 25 right, we vacate the runway to the left. Landing on 25 left, we have a hotspot crossing runway 25 center. And should we actually get an offer for the visual approach onto runway 25 center, then we can accept that until we are at 1,500 feet above the ground, so that's roughly 1,900 on our altimeter. Thereafter, I'm not going to accept the visual approach anymore, but until that point we can do the visual. Okay, and that is the basic idea of the approach. So, I do not have any non-normals, and I do not have any threats for this arrival. Do you have anything? No? Very good. Alright, approach briefing complete. And then I see you all as we're getting a little bit closer to the destination. Now, this is not exactly the kind of weather we've hoped for, and certainly not the kind of weather we've been expecting, according to the weather report. Let's update that for once here. Still only suggests light rain at 0520, so the report is 20 minutes old. But in any case, we are not going to fly into the red over here. So, at this point, request radar vectors for delay, as we cannot commence the approach here. Let's make a left-hand turn heading 240 to stay out of the worst of that weather, and then we can start to slow the aircraft down, something around 220 knots, as we will have to wait it out. No way that we are going to approach through the red down here. Now, looking outside already, we can't see the stars anymore, which means that we are already right within the bad weather area. But I definitely want to avoid flying into the red over here. So, what would we do at a point like this? Well, request radar vectors to stay outside the red areas, and then we would go ahead and find ourselves a nice little holding. Right now it doesn't seem very turbulent at all, so I'm rather positive that we will be able to just wait it out. Looking at the wind over here, almost 70 knots, and the radar picture suggests that the red area has already almost moved through at the airport. We're probably looking at about 10 minutes delay or so in order to wait until all the red has passed away from the approach area, so that we're able to finally start the approach. Now let's go ahead and find a fix where we can enter the holding. Unfortunately, this isn't all that easy because the weather is right where the normal holding fix over Charlie VOR would have been. So we'll just have to find ourselves something somewhere. Now what we could try is to see if a holding is available at Frankenstein VOR, Fox Kilo Sierra. So that's right over here. Seems to be clear of any of the weather. So that is where we are initially going to go. Okay, direct to Foxtrot Kilo Sierra and insert that. But we will stay on the heading for the time being, as that is still going through some of the red area. I'm not too worried about the amber. It seems we are above that for the time being. No turbulence, no nothing down here. So, Fox Kilo Sierra, hold, and we'll just take the present position inbound. And that is fine for me. So, once we clear the red down here, we will pick up the holding and wait until the weather has improved. Too bad, really. We almost made it on time, but safety always comes first, so we gotta wait until the storms have passed. Well, I see you as we are waiting for the weather, and I'll get back to you once the front has actually moved through the airport. On a quick note though, with that kind of weather report, light rain, we would certainly not have expected a front like this, and if they actually do get something this bad at the airport, then I would certainly have expected them to issue a new meta outside of the normal times of publishing. In any case, we'll have to wait it out, so let's pick up the holding, and I see you a little bit later then. Now, this was quite a bit of a ride. We had 2 autopilot disconnects, which we could quickly resolve, but I decided to abandon the holding and much rather proceed a little bit further westbound where we came from, where we knew the weather was better. Now, it seems that in the meantime, a little bit of a gap has opened up close to the airport, so we are going to try and attempt the approach over here. Let's initially fly heading of 015-ish in order to make it through the gaps, and then we can start our descent. Down to 8,000 at first, speed to 50, and then we can start our approach just now. In the meantime, the lights are on, the signs are on anyway. We do have constraints and the ILS selected. GPS primary with a high accuracy, and the engine mode selector is in norm. Alright, you don't need to descend that fast, please. Vertical speed. So the weather radar pictures in the simulator are unfortunately a little bit unreliable, but I think the airport is in the green already, and most of the approach is in the yellow. So hopefully we'll be able just to get underneath that little bit of red over there. Honestly, I don't trust the picture enough over here. I think this is mostly simulator limitation that we gotta put everything down to. Alright, descent altitude 5000 on the QNH 1011. And then we can just quickly update that weather here to see what we got now. So 230 at 9, light rain, broken 2000, and QNH 1011. And I'm really not sure what we are seeing on the displays over here, but something seems quite wrong. Okay, look at that. We're showing 220 indicated, but a true airspeed of 400 knots. That's definitely a case of unreliable airspeed here. Okay, let's do probe window heat on. I do just have that feeling that they have messed something up here with the de-icing systems of the aircraft. I really have that feeling. But let's give it a moment, see what's gonna happen. And out. Now that might possibly explain the autopilot disconnects as well. I had the feeling when the minimum speed bar came up over here that it was just because of some turbulence or so. But I have a feeling the simulator froze our airspeed in place, which is strange seeing that we have it tapped at plus 12 degrees. Okay, well, in any case, if that is what the plane is doing over here, then we do have a safe flight path at the moment. That means we don't need to execute the memory items. However, let's run the unreliable speed indication procedure. So if the safe conduct of the flight is impacted, it is not. It's really just, I think it's the speed indicator that's frozen up, which is, well, temperature plus 7 now, okay. Yeah, which is perhaps possible. In any case, to level off, let's run the QRH procedure here. And I do need a little bit of light, so autopilot off. Okay, auto thrust off, flight directors off. Okay, speed brakes, check retracted, which they are. Pitch and thrust table apply. We're at 160 tons roughly. So in clean config, we're looking at a pitch of 4 degrees and 52% N1. And I tell you what, let's steer the aircraft clear of the weather once again. So 52% N1. Is roughly what we have now, and with that we should get 225 knots resultant airspeed. Okay, our speed indication seems to be alive again. It's at 230 now. Let's do a quick test, add some thrust, see what's gonna happen. Yeah, that seems better. Okay, let's go wings level. So, 280 knots ground speed, which comes from the GPS, so, or from the IRS, I should say. So this should be reliable. 250 knots seems okay as well. And the GPS monitor tells us we're at 5,800 feet GPS altitude. That seems alright as well. Okay, looks like we recovered. Now that was interesting. Let's call it that way. It was interesting. Most certainly because the aircraft did not show the same behavior as the real one, of course. But well, let's first of all set course into the direction of the airport again and make sure we get down to 5,000. And then let's see if we can re-engage the automatics here. So, flight directors on. Heading 270, please. And 700 feet a minute rate of descent. Autopilot 1. Alright. Auto thrust on. Speed. Looks good to me. Contrary to the weather radar display, which does definitely not look good to me. Which gotta be a bug, by the way. No way that it would just have become red again within that amount of time. So, Let's ignore the weather radar. This thing is buggy. Let's rather make it a right-hand turn to actually start the approach. Since fuel is slowly becoming a thing of a consideration as well here. And that image... Why is it not leveling off? Okay, well, we can go down to 4,000 anyway. So thrust idle open descent out 4,000 blue. Now that was interesting, having the speed freeze up unexpectedly. In the real world, of course, the autopilot would have disconnected. We would have gotten several different alerts. Speed out star. So in the real world, the plane would have made us aware of it, but interesting to actually figure out that the speed indication is frozen without any of that. Okay, so approach checklist, please. Barrow ref, QNH 1011, seatbelts on minimum, Barrow 570, auto brake, low, engine start selector, norm, approach checklist complete. Alright, and if the weather radar is unreliable, then we can just turn it off. Let's try system 2, see if we get anything different. Nope, seems broken. Okay. Weather radar off. And of course, these things exclusively happen at night. In IMC, no visible lights of any cities or something. But neat effects of the strobes there, gotta say that. Alright, well, that was an interesting one. But for now, left by 10 degrees. I'll keep the speed up high for the time being, just in case. And the temperature is now +7, so icing definitely shouldn't be an issue anymore. Nonetheless, I will keep the probe window heat switch on. It would have given us a warning if any of that system had failed earlier, causing the issue. But I just don't trust the default aircraft systems too much here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is something problematic, something buggy involved here at some point. Okay. 7 miles prior to the final approach point, Delta Fox 620, we are going to start the speed reduction. And this time we're definitely keeping a good look at the ground speed. You might have noticed that we didn't use the bird when we had the unreliable speed and did the manual flight, contrary to any other manual flying you do in Airbus aircraft. And that was because the bird is usually unreliable when you have an unreliable speed indication. Okay, heading 280, clear to LS approach, runway 25 left, and then activate approach phase. And we have Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1 and 2, glide slope, and localizer blue. Now, as a small explanation, when we did have the unreliable speed, you might have noticed I did not do the memory items, and that is because you only do the memory items when the safe flight path is in doubt. Or to say it in Airbus language, if the safe conduct of the flight is impacted, which was not the case at the point. The aircraft was under positive control, so we didn't have to do any memory items there. Alright, so 15 mile final, down at the green dot speed, glide slope alive, flaps 1. Speed checked. Oh, the camera is a little glitchy right now. Block and flaps 1. So 170 knots until 5 miles, typical Frankfurt scenario. So we'll just leave everything managed, since the airspeed is more or less at 170 knots anyway. The only thing that's not quite correct right now is the pitch. You should have 9 degrees of pitch at the airspeed in Conv 1, rather than 5.5 as we have it right now. So you should really be up here at 9 degrees. Okay, the glide slope is alive, and we'll have glide slope capture in a few moments. Now let's try to put that weather radar on again, see what we're gonna get. Nope, this is definitely not correct. Glide slope start. Go around altitude 5,000 feet. Alright, I will keep that on again, but that red over here definitely seems incorrect. And glide slope. But let's just check again. Yeah. Light rain, recent rain. Well, the recent rain seems to match, since it has moved through the airport. It is now in the approach sector. 280 at 6, light rain, scattered clouds. Well, overall good flying conditions. At least for flying IFR anyway. So the missed approach initially seems clear. Not exactly convinced about the area over here, so if we do a missed approach, it'll be on the runway heading climbing 5,000. That's all just yellow and green. That is okay.
2,500.
Checked, and flaps 2. Speed checked. Flaps 2. Gear down. And flaps 3. Speed checked. Flap 3. Flaps full. Speed checked. Flaps full. Right, the cabin is ready. Landing checklist. ECAM memo. Landing no blue. Landing checklist complete. Alright, so the simulated A330 definitely decelerates better than the real A330. In the real one, you really have some problems getting the aircraft stabilized at 1,000 feet if you start to configure at 2,500. In the simulator, that's quite a bit easier. I'm not sure yet if I want to say luckily, but it is easier. Okay. Well then, let's go ahead and do the rest manually. Cat 1. And auto thrust off.
1,000.
Checked. So this had scattered 800, that means we should slowly get out of the clouds, and indeed the approach lights just start again to come inside on the 12 o'clock. So a little bit gusty it seems.
400.
Land.
300.
Come on, speed. I'm already giving you quite a bit of extra thrust.
100 above.
Checked.
Minimum.
Continue.
100. 30, 20, 10.
Spoilers, reverse green, decel. Manual brakes. The auto brake is far too strong here. Normally, you will never make the first exit. You will always go to the second, if not the third. And look at how much I can let the aircraft roll here. That is not very realistic. Oh well, here we are. Welcome to Frankfurt. So, definitely something unexpected, and yeah, this is what you get. Of course, after a long night flight, 2 pilots. You never have 3 pilots when something like this happens. Always fly with 2 and have a long night flight like we just had, and then something like this happens. In any case, it was an interesting experience. So let's vacate that runway, get off to the right, and once we're clear of everything, that's when we can do the after landing procedures. Alrighty. So the weather radar is absolutely going into the tech log. After landing checklist, radar and predictive wind shear off. After landing checklist complete. Okay, so we are going to cross the runway, most likely via Mic 8 or Mic 10. So it'll be straight ahead for a little bit. Well, and with that, welcome to Frankfurt Airport. Probably not exactly the weather conditions that you've been hoping for after a nice day in Equatorial Africa. But some lovely visual effects here, aren't they? This is default FS24, this is not any add-on. Gotta say that looks quite amazing. Quite amazing indeed. Nine hours and 12 flight time now. That was quite long as well. Didn't quite expect that. I mean, we knew it would take some time, but I didn't expect that much, to be honest. So, they don't usually let you cross at Mach 10 due to other aircraft, at least not in a wide body, so we're gonna take the next one, Mach 8. I really gotta say, the graphics are looking amazing in this sim, don't they? Okay, clear to cross runway 25 center. Strobes on. And I tell you what, no slide takeoff, because we just can't see anything again. Alright, if runway 25 is the operative runway direction, then they're using taxiway Lima, that's the first one going left to right. in order to taxi to the holding point, and vice versa, they're using November into the opposite direction. Our gate is going to be Alpha 58 today. That means we gotta go opposite direction. Let's have a quick look. Navigraph charts. You can hide this, please. So we're crossing the runway down here. We're going straight ahead into November 3, left onto November, and then all the way around the terminal via November 8, gate Alpha 58, which is just over here. Okay, on to November, the roads are clear. Excellent, so strobe lights back into auto. Seems like it has stopped raining. But the surfaces would still be wet, so we'll leave the anti-ice on for the time being. You might have noticed I also left the probe and window heat switch in the on position. Because, well, you just never know. Not in this simulator anyway. Alright, we're taxiing in a straight line. APUs avail. Shutdown engine 2. We can certainly save a little bit of gas here doing single engine taxi. So we are absolutely gonna do that. Now, determining the time when to start single engine taxi is always a little bit of a challenge in the simulation. Just like it is in the real world, by the way. Because you're not supposed to do that when you're going through a turn. You're not supposed to do single engine as you taxi over contaminated surfaces, so you gotta put a little bit of planning into it. At the same time, quick check of the brake temperatures, by the way. 245, that's alright. It could be much, much worse. But it's cold outside anyway, and we only used auto brake low. However, we did use idle reverse, so seeing brake temperatures close to 300 degrees at the gate is certainly expected. Alright, off to the right, onto November 8. Well, and now that we're getting into the congested areas, we certainly switch the nose light back into the taxi position. So, we are gonna cross another road. You can see that there's still vehicles crossing over there. But the marshal law is on standby to catch anyone who still crosses in front of us. Alright, clear left side, clear right side, and here we go. Then let's quickly catch GSX. Parking Terminal 1 at the Alpha gate, and we're looking for Alpha 58. No follow me needed, thanks. Handling by Frankfurt Airport. Alright, nicely lit area over here now. That's something that I really appreciate about FS24. The ray tracing really makes your gates look, or the entire airport during night operation, look a lot more realistic. You might recall in many simulators, we would just have had a black area here outside of the immediate gate area. That's of course not the case in the real world. In the real world it really is as bright as you can see it over here. Alright, gate Alpha 58. A little bit of power to keep the airplane moving around the turn. Alright, A333 is on the guidance system. Nice and slow, and now the big question is always, do we need a bit of thrust? Nope, we don't. Perfect, here we are. Okay. Cabin crew, all doors in park. Well, and here we are. That was definitely an interesting one. Okay. Fuel, left wing tank, low level. It would not have given us on the ground, that's for sure. Clear fuel. Here we go. So, beacon off, and that would be the indication to the cabin, but, well, they don't do anything. Then let's just do it our way. Okay, parking checklist. Parking brake chocks, brake set, engines off, fuel pumps off, parking checklist complete. Well, my friends, and here we have it. Welcome to Frankfurt. Now, let's get that table out. We definitely have quite a bit of paperwork to do now. Can we get that light on here? No, because this is the light that shines onto the table on the A330. You don't have something down here like you have on the A320 family. But that's alright. So, for now, welcome to Frankfurt. I hope that you all enjoyed the flight as much as I did. I certainly had a great time on that approach. Now, I will certainly talk to AnyBuilds that they implement the ProArt correctly so that we don't get a frozen airspeed and icing conditions anytime soon again. But for now, I would like to thank you very much for flying along. Hope you found this one interesting. Be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below. As always, like, comment and subscribe. And if you really like what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.